Today, let's talk about different types of magical tools. In specific, I'd like to talk about the Ouija because it gets a lot of bad press. If you are new to my channel, let me do a little introduction. My name is Susan. I am a coach certified as well as a certified Reiki master healer. I typically work one-on-one with clients or in coaching groups, and I do give readings. Last week, here on the channel, I talked about how I started with oracle cards. But in the time in between the tapings, summer has let out for school. So that means I have a kid at home. And one day she was super bored and we turned on YouTube and we found this amazing channel. We both are very interested in the paranormal. How can you not be if you're a psychic channel, right? And we happened to find this YouTube channel. So I'm going to link it down here. It's called Into the Fog. Peter, you're doing an amazing thing here and excellent storyteller. So we got obsessed. There's one video in particular that we had just watched. And there's so much to talk about here that I thought, let me do a video on it. The one I'm talking about that we watched recently was about Ouija boards. Oh, there's so much to say about that tool in specific, but I want to kind of be responsible with how we, walk through this. Last week, I talked about how I started with the oracle cards, and I made sure to pepper it with some of the mystical rules. So you're going to hear me talk about it again, because it's an opportunity to understand something a little differently. So I think Peter does a great job of telling these stories, but he also asks this question: do you have any experience with the Ouija? What's your thoughts on it? And of course, because I'm watching it with my daughter, I've paused a couple of times and I've talked to her about it. I talked to her about it because I do use a tool that a lot of people think is evil. But it is a tool, and it is who is using it. Just like anything else we have, AI, anyone, anything a human uses can be used inappropriately. That said, I have my own little story about when I was younger and when I used it. When I was around my daughter's age, I was becoming more and more fascinated with the paranormal. I am a Gen Xer, and during the 80s, there was a lot of paranormal type of movies, very much into pop culture. We had Ghostbusters and Poltergeist, for instance. And that went from 1, 2, 3. I think they even did a 4th movie on Poltergeist. And same with Ghostbusters. So paranormal has always been kind of in our culture, whether it's a fun, loving way or a very, very spooky way. I have a couple of these stories, but the one that I remember was in the 80s, the best. Me and my girlfriend would play with it because she got it as a gift. And just like the oracle cards, we were asking about boys and the story, which was the question that opens the whole thing. Are there any spirits among us? Ugh, I think about it, it just makes my skin crawl. Anyway, of course, we got a yes. And I think we were around 9 or 10, maybe closer to 12, but wherever we were on the scale, we were just old enough where boys were becoming interesting. The one that we always were interested in was the most ungettable get, which was Scott Baio. So for those who don't know, Scott Baio was an actor, or is an actor, still alive, on Happy Days, which was like a sitcom. I don't know if it was a sitcom, but it was a show on TV that featured Fonz, who rode this motorcycle, and it was a big deal. And Scott Baio played Chachi, kind of the sidekick to the main guy. But we liked him. We wanted him to show up. So this one day we were playing on the Ouija. We're like figuring it out because it spells out things that Scott Baio was going to come that day before 5 o'clock just to come see us. Why we believed this, I don't know. I mean, I grew up in a very special neighborhood with a lot of kids who use their imaginations. We were into theater, the whole thing. So we believed. And we waited on her front porch all day up until we had to go to dinner. That is a fun and funny kind of story. And from then on, I think we just totally lost interest because we're like, this thing doesn't really work. Scott Baio didn't show up. Of course not. But the power of our belief, that is the thing about all things when we're talking about divination and using these tools. It is your belief. And your belief is so powerful. It can call in things like Scott Baio, right? I mean, it didn't actually happen. But I do think, and I have more stories to talk about this, where I've had things happen because I wasn't practicing good spiritual hygiene, as I like to call it. What do I mean by that is making sure you're grounded in your energy, clearing the space. So we usually do that with something like smudging. This is an old indigenous Native American thing to do to clear the space. It's a special smoke. You can use sage or Palo Santo. These are a couple things, although I know that there's a little bit of noise about those two things. It's to clear the energy. You can use a lot of different tools for that. Grounding, I usually do a quick meditation, ground down with the earth, invite that energy in. I could do a whole video for this, maybe I will, but those are a couple of practical things. Then protecting the space. That is the most important, because if you open a portal, such as what the Ouija will do, and you're not inviting intentionally what energy you want there, which I am, I guess, a good witch in the sense, I want clean energy from light level beings. We do have dark beings around us all the time. And if you don't say, I invite the angels or ascended masters or light beings, then you get whatever comes. And just a quick note on that. Whether you believe it or not does not matter. This is energy. And whether you believe or not, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but if you are using these tools, you must be aware of those kind of things. Because when you're not, then you learn the hard way. Why do dark energies come into our purview? Because they like to play. They want to be seen too. And there's another story here that I'll talk about later. But that's why things like the Ouija, in my personal opinion, is not something I would recommend. There's too many open variables, not enough protection around it. I think a lot of things are open for interpretation. You're doing it as a group. If you don't have one person at least in that room leading it the right way, it's just opening up Pandora's box. I'm not calling it evil. I'm just calling it problematic. And the reason why I like things like oracle cards, specifically the ones I picked, Rebecca Campbell, I know what type of practitioner she is. I know the energy of what she puts into her cards. Same with Colette Baron-Reed, the cards that I talked about last week. They intentionally imbue their cards with sacred, holy, divine energy. I don't know that's true when the Ouija is sold as a game board. I can't imagine in a factory somebody sat down and made sure to put an intention on that board. Even so, like I said last week with cards, you put the intention and energy in them as well. But that's the difference I feel with Ouija. Just make sure you know what you're using before you start using it. And make sure you understand what you're inviting into your space. That's all I want to say this week about Ouija. I have more to say about it. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like the paranormal? Are you curious about things like the Ouija? What are your feelings about these topics? And I'll be back next Monday with another video. Thanks for being here. Have a great week.